Welcome to the Cactus Atlas. Today we're taking you on a quick but fascinating tour of one of Phoenix's more unique historic attractions, the Pioneer Living History Museum. This episode explores the life and architecture of Arizona's pioneers, featuring relocated original buildings.
The schoolhouse is one of many original buildings relocated here to the premises.
And authentic reconstructions.
This is another beautiful reimagining of an old bank building, what an old bank teller would be like, with equipment to go with it.
So let's step back in time and see what life was like in the wild Arizona frontier.
This place is awesome.
The Pioneer Living History Museum is an open-air museum just north of Phoenix, Arizona. It preserves and showcases life in the Arizona Territory during the late 1800s and early 1900s. What makes this museum so special is that many of the structures you'll see here are not replicas. They are original era buildings relocated from across the state and meticulously preserved. A couple examples include the Opera House and the Northern Home, which we'll visit shortly. Throughout the museum, you'll find equipment, furnishings, and architecture authentic to the era.
And this old tonsorial parlor, as it was known, really a barber shop, is a really good example of one of the reimagined businesses of the Old West. And I don't know if I'd want to go to a barber back in the day. They did much more than just cut hair. And what other services could you expect here other than getting a haircut or a shave? Well, if you needed a tooth extracted, that's the guy you'd see, your barber.
Just you hold still there, partner. We almost got this.
Our first stop on today's tour, the Opera House, an elegant structure that reflects how even frontier towns yearn for art and culture amid the rugged desert landscape.
It's amazing to think that back in the Old West up in Prescott, where this building was moved from, that people probably congregated out here before shows and came in and out of this building during that whole time, as this thing served many different purposes.
Originally built in 1876 in Prescott, Arizona, the Opera House once served as a central gathering place for community events, including concerts, theatrical performances, and public meetings. It was later used as a mining office and private residence before being relocated to the museum. The structure features classic Victorian architecture and is one of the oldest buildings on the museum grounds. Its preservation here helps highlight the cultural aspirations of even the most remote frontier communities. Next, let's explore how early settlers lived. Our first stop is called the Southern House. It's a reproduction of a very early pioneer home. This is as basic as it gets. Dirt floors, minimal insulation, and walls that provided little comfort from Arizona's harsh climate. Early pioneers lived in homes like this for up to a couple years. One account tells of what it was like to live in these during the occasional rainstorm. During rain, they would rather sleep outside than inside. Outside, they just got wet. Inside, they not only got wet, but the mud from the roof fell in on them along with scorpions.
Oh, come on, scorpions again?
Can you imagine that, being in here during a rainstorm and having a scorpion fall on your head along with mud? Nah, not for me.
Now compare that with the Northern Home, an original cabin relocated here from Flagstaff. Compared to the mud home, this would at first appear to be luxury. But before we jump to that conclusion, consider this. It housed a very large family in extremely tight quarters, as would not have been uncommon in that time. This particular home was built by Jeff D. Newman circa 1885. He lived here with his wife and 8 children. So 10 people in total. Imagine an entire family sharing one small room. It truly emphasizes how challenging day-to-day life was for these early settlers. Finally, we stop at the ranch complex, another original structure. It shows how ranching families lived, with multiple generations often packed under one roof while maintaining livestock and farmland in difficult conditions. Like the northern home, the space is cramped, but it was their livelihood and shelter. A cabin of this size would have accommodated a family of 4 to 6 people. Hard-working people who depended on the land to get by day to day. Let's move on to structures with deeper historical roots, homes that have robust stories to tell. This next cabin is another dating back to the 1800s, 1878 to be precise. The cabin was falling apart when they decided to relocate it here from the Williams, Arizona area. The Ashurst Cabin, named after the family who lived here, was the boyhood home of Arizona's first U.S. Senator, Henry Fountain Ashurst. He was known as the silver-tongued orator of the West. This cabin offers a glimpse into the humble beginnings of someone who went on to have a major political career. Ashurst would give a couple accounts of what life was like in this cabin many years later. One account details what life was like for his mother, living on the frontier.
In our early ranch life, until we got the stove, all our meals were cooked by Mother at a campfire or fireplace, with primitive utensils.
And another details the dangers.
There were crevices in the hillside where my father hid our supplies when the Indians galloped along on the warpath, burning and murdering as they went on their raids.
And then there's the Flying V cabin, tied to one of Arizona's most infamous conflicts, the Pleasant Valley War. Also known as the Tonto Basin Feud or the Graham-Tewksbury Feud, it was one of the bloodiest range wars in American history. Taking place in the Arizona Territory during the 1880s, it was primarily a violent conflict between the cattle-herding Grahams and the sheep-herding Tewksbury family. What makes this feud stand out is not only its intensity, nearly every adult male from both families was eventually killed, but also its murky origins with elements of land disputes, economic rivalry, and personal vengeance all playing a role. The Flying V cabin is another original structure relocated to this museum. The cabin was built in Pleasant Valley circa 1880 by John Tewksbury. This cabin is another good example of the rustic living conditions early settlers endured out in the territory of Arizona.
I'm inside the actual Flying V cabin and just trying to soak in what conversations might have happened, what drama may have played out inside of these walls in the 1800s. This is the real Old West here.
But there's an interesting feature of this cabin that sets it apart from others. If you look carefully, you'll find narrow gun slots carved into the logs, evidence of just how dangerous and tense those days were. The Pleasant Valley area was very prone to raiding Apache at the time. These gun ports would have been a necessary defensive measure living in constant peril.
So here's a notch from the inside. We'll spy for raiding Apache.
As Arizona moved into the late 1800s, homes became more ornate and comfortable. With the arrival of railroads and booming populations, materials like wood became easier to procure. We've come a long way from the muddy, scorpion-laden walls of the early pioneers. Take the Victorian house, with its intricate woodwork, larger rooms, and stylish design. It represents a clear departure from the rugged simplicity of earlier pioneer homes. It's a sign of progress and prosperity.
You know, by today's standards, this is a little dated, but still, looking inside of it, you know, people with modern sensibilities, I think, could survive in this just fine.
This home is a relic from the 1890s, built by John Marion Sears. Like so many of the other buildings, it was relocated here from another location, this time from downtown Phoenix. Even for someone from our modern age, living in a home like this would be much more recognizable and comfortable. The Merritt House is another example of this transition. Like the Victorian house, it has more modern features and shows how some families began to thrive as towns and trade routes developed. These homes show us that the pioneer story wasn't just about hardship. It was also about progress, perseverance, and the gradual emergence of a new American lifestyle in the desert.
You know, being in one of these older homes doesn't feel that out of touch with me. Far cry from the old southern home, the mud walls, huh?
While these last couple homes sure do look comfortable enough, imagine living in them without air conditioning during the hottest days of an Arizona summer. And that's a quick look at the Pioneer Living History Museum, a place where Arizona's frontier spirit lives on. We hope you enjoyed our tour of Arizona pioneer homes throughout the history of this desert state. If you enjoyed hanging out with us, give the video a like and consider subscribing to Cactus Atlas for more adventures into the historic and scenic corners of the American West.
Well, folks, the Pioneer Living History Museum, amazing experience. Get out here if you can. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.